What's up, guys? What I will do another video this morning talking about the WWE 2K25. So for me, the game has been pretty good so far. I mean, I need to start getting back into the My Rise stuff because obviously I've started it, but I haven't finished it yet. I completed this year's 2K Showcase, which is the first one I've completed in about 3 years. I mean, the game, like, took a showcase this year. I think it was, it was a lot more fun because it sort of got rid of the slingshot technology, which was, one of the things that kind of ruined showcase for me in the last couple of games. So it was good that they got rid of that. I mean, obviously, we had the introduction of timed objectives this year. There was, one or two timed objectives, per match. But thankfully, if you fouled, obviously those timed objectives were pretty early in the match. So if you fouled them, you just restart the match, and you wouldn't have to restart the whole match. You'd only have to redo a few of the objectives if you'd fouled that timed one. I mean, the other modes, obviously, with like my faction and things like that, I don't really bother with that, to be honest. That's one of the things that I never really bother with. Every time the game comes out, my faction just isn't one of those things that really interests me. And it's the same with like my GM and my universe. I know a lot of people are, really interested in that sort of stuff, but for me, I'm not really, into that. The only things I'm ever really interested in are My Rise and obviously the 2K Showcase. I mean, the Rey Mysterio one in 2K22 was the last one that I actually finished. I never finished the John Cena one in 2K23, and I never finished the 40 Years of WrestleMania one last year. Because I just lost interest in them really quickly because they just weren't that fun. But I feel like this year 2K Showcase was a lot better and is one of the things that 2K actually got right with this year's game. It obviously was the showcase mode, and I absolutely agree with that. The other thing that I tend to focus on quite heavily with the game is like community creations. Now, don't get me wrong, community creations is a godsend when it comes to, wrestlers that aren't in the game. I think it's good to know that we can rely on community creations when it comes to wrestlers that are not in the game. For example, if you wanted Jeff Hardy in the game, community creations has you covered. You want Joe Hendry in the game, community creations has you covered. You know, there's probably not a single wrestler that isn't covered by community creations. You know, every year there are these select creators that do a really, really good job with certain wrestlers. They really smash it out of the park every year. I can imagine that for those that, like proper, experienced creators, but it probably takes quite a few hours work to get it all in completely spot on, which a lot of them do. It's just amazing the level of talent there are within community creations. As obviously I got to A25 on early access this year, so I got it on the 7th of March rather than a week later on the 14th. And I remember that day, obviously the day that early, obviously the early access came out on the 7th. I wasn't expecting there to be anything on community creations at that point. I was thinking, oh, there's not going to be much on there. Well, probably not going to be anything on there yet because the game's only just come out, the game's only just launched. But when I went on to community creations, there was already quite a few pages of stuff on there, which was quite surprising. I mean, obviously, there wasn't really anything at that point that I thought was particularly spectacular or was actually, decent. Um, I mean, obviously, the last couple of months have progressed, we've seen a lot of awesome horrors on the game this year. Like, there's some awesome horrors for Joe Hendry, awesome horrors for Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy. the sport for choice this year with regards to with regards to creations. I mean, obviously, I've been doing community creations now. I've relied on that for a few years now. You know, when it comes to wrestlers or alternate attires for wrestlers that are in the game. At least I know that I can rely on community creations. I think the good thing for for me this year is I've been able to download stuff from community creations without losing connection to the servers. I mean, I was having that problem a little bit when the game first came out. Like, I was having that problem where the server connection was a bit all over the place. But it seems to be, over the last few weeks, I've been doing a lot of stuff on community creations and haven't experienced any problems with regards to randomly losing connection to the servers, which was a problem that I was quite oftenly experiencing with WWE 2K24's community creations. Was I kept on randomly losing connection to the servers, and I didn't quite know why. I'd emailed 2K multiple times and said, this is this is what keeps happening. And they weren't really that helpful, to be honest. They weren't they were trying to offer solutions, things that I could do to try and solve the problem. You know, but I mean, 2K. I mean, this year I think things have been a lot better. Like the gameplay as well feels so much better this year with 2K25. I love the fact that we've got various backstage, multiple backstage arenas to choose from this year, to fight in this year. That makes things more interesting. Everything about the game for me feels so much better this year in comparisons to 2K24. Yeah, maybe some of the superstar models maybe a little bit rough around the edges, but most of them look absolutely spot on. Some of them even look better than I think they did in 2K24. I honestly feel like Cody Rhodes looks better in 2K24 than he did in 2K25 than he did in the last game. As does CM Punk, he looks really good. Liv Morgan looks really good. Bailey is one of those wrestlers that still doesn't look particularly impressive. In this year's game, she still looks. Yeah, I mean, there's been a slight improvement from her model in 2K24, but not a massive improvement, to be honest. That's the only one. I feel like that's probably the only one model that I've seen that isn't that great. Lady! Lady! Lady, shut up! No, no, you don't stop being naughty. Sorry, it's just post, just a delivery man. Asked me if I can take a parcel in for next door. As obviously, I went to next door and they weren't there, so they've asked me to take the parcel in. As I was saying about 2K25, the game this year smashes it out the park. Smashes 2K24 out the park, in my honest opinion. And the one thing I do like about the game this year, though, is that there isn't kind of there isn't too much of a problem with re-uploading this year. That was a major problem. In the older games, I mean, especially in 2K19, 2K20, there was a lot of problems with that. People would download whores to community creations, and then what somebody else would do is they would download that whore, they wouldn't make any changes to it, and they just re-upload it, and then they would start getting downloads on that whore, like basically stealing downloads from someone else, and that became like a major problem. Really like a really major problem. I remember with 2K20, one of the two the wrestlers that I was really kind of looking at with regards to whores in 2K20 was CM Punk. For some reason, I had that. I don't know why, but I really wanted CM Punk in the game, and I wasn't entirely sure why. And I was looking at through the CM Punk whores on that game, and there was just pages upon pages of the same CM Punk haul that had been re-uploaded by people hundreds of times. Like, so many people had re-uploaded it, it was unbelievable. And I think it was the same with other wrestlers as well. Like, for example, someone had uploaded Jeff Hardy haul to community creations. Someone would take that, would obviously download that haul, and then re-upload it. That's what a lot of people were doing. And I don't feel like people should have gotten banned for that or should have had their account suspended for that. I just don't think that's fair with the fact that someone was uploading it all to community creations and then somebody else was downloading it and then just re-uploading it without making any changes to it, which is what a lot of people were doing. And that, to me, that was quite a scummy thing to do. And it's quite, quite a disgusting thing to do, stealing downloads from someone else, who has actually put all of that work in, when it comes to making that haul. And you've just gone and downloaded it, re-uploaded it without making any changes, and you're getting all of the downloads that that person should be getting. It's to me that's a bit, that's all kind of wrong, in my honest opinion. And I'm glad that that doesn't seem to be too much of a problem now with community creations. I've not really seen, any hauls that have sort of been re-uploaded multiple times, I think it's a lot harder to do that now anyway. I think that, with like, things are just generally better this year, in every single possible way. Like community creations, I think it's been a lot better this year. It seems, it's been easier for me. It feels like it's been easier for me to download stuff this year without, losing connection to the servers. The only downside I think is issue to community creations this year is they've kind of removed the most recent tab, and I get, I understand that to hey probably had perfectly good reasons for why they did that. There was probably, obviously that it's probably so that people can download like inappropriate stuff or whatever. As people, a lot of people used to do that. There were a lot of people that used to download stuff to upload stuff to community creations that was maybe a little bit inappropriate, and you used to see that. I mean, I remember there was this, but like, I don't remember who it was, but on the older games, community creations, there used to be this person. I think it was the same. I think it was the same person, but they used to re-upload, like they used to download, like upload, like various hauls of women wrestlers in bikinis. So there would be a bikini Liv, bikini Bailey, bikini Becky Lynch, bikini Charlotte. You used to see a lot of things like that in the in the games back in, a few years back. That you'd see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They seem to be in it. Someone used to upload them in every game. The Teletubbies as well, like randomly. You'd see them as well. And you'd see various NBA stars, halls of them, halls of footballers, you know, you name it, you probably used to see it in community relations back in, a few years back. I mean, yeah, you do still see, you do still tend to see some pretty crazy things in community relations now, but I don't think you really see anything that is as crazy and hilarious as what you used to see. Back in games like 2K19, 2K18, 2K19, 2K20. Yeah, I would say that community creations is definitely better in the newer games than it was in the older games. As I said, the re-uploading issue doesn't seem to be a thing nowadays, which is not too bad, which is not a bad thing, you know. Because I did used to feel sorry to the people that fell victim to that, the fact they would download it all, and somebody else would they would upload it all to community creations, and then someone would download it, and then just re-upload it and start stealing stealing downloads from them. It was quite sad, really, that so many people were doing that, and it showed that there were some scumbags who obviously weren't willing to put the work in, but were just willing to steal downloads from someone else by downloading someone else's code that they've created and then re-uploading it. You know, the other thing that I mean, you do still see it now. Like some people upload calls of a certain wrestler and they're absolute crap, and you'll think, why did they even bother uploading that? The other day I was looking at Joe Hendry, and someone had uploaded a call. It was Joe Hendry 25, and when I clicked on it, I was like, why the fuck has this person uploaded this? It looked not like they butchered it to fuck, you know. They don't play the Joe Hendry that basically didn't look anything like him. And I just thought to myself, like, people just need to leave it to the more experienced creators, honestly, rather than wasting their time uploading cores that are not even that good. I know that I think that's the problem. I think some people upload these cores thinking that they're so good, but they're not actually as good. They're not actually as good as people think as the person thinks it is. You know, um, but as I said, massive respect to all of the more experienced creators within community creations for some of the things some of the stuff that they've uploaded this year. It's been really good to see. And I think as I said earlier in the video, it is good to know that when it comes to certain wrestlers that are not in the game, or for whatever reason didn't make it onto the roster for this year's game, it's good to know that we can rely on we can rely on community creations. If you wanted an AEW universe in the game, community creations you know, it's a godsend, for things like that, for setting up universes and things like that. For me, community creations is, my go-to every year when it comes to wrestlers that are not in the game. I always know that people are gonna smash it out of the park when it comes to wrestlers that are not in the game. They're gonna upload some really good cores. Give it time and you will see that. We've got, if you wanted someone like Saria in the game, your sport for choice, there's quite a few decent cores on there, some of which I have downloaded. Um, I do on my game right now. I have alternate attires for Andrade, alternate attires for for Roman Reigns, and then I've got Joe Hendry, Ray Phoenix, Alistair Black, Rusev, Penta, and Zarya. Ricky Saints and Zarya. So I've got about nine different things on. I've got about So I've got a few different wrestlers that are not in the game this year. I have downloaded the Hardy Boys in the past. I may do that again at some point if I really want them in the game. You know, I mean, we probably got over a year. We probably got just less than a year before the game, before the service shut down. Because obviously the service for 2K24 is still up, I think. So the service for 2K24 will probably shut down in January. It'll probably shut down in January next year, and then so yeah, we've still got a little bit of time, quite a while yet before they shut down the servers for 2K25. They probably won't shut down the servers for 2K25 until until just before 2K27 comes out. Because as I think they'll shut obviously January next year they'll probably shut down the servers for WWE 2K24, and then the year after they'll probably shut down the servers. Like in January 27, they'll probably shut down the servers for 2K25. I think that's how it will do. That's the way it will go. I'm excited for the deal. I mean, the first DLC pack is, I think, just about a week, only about a week away now. Obviously, we're going to be having the first superstars in the game. We're going to be Julia, Stephanie Vacher, and the Motor City Machine Guns. I'm kind of disappointed that Penta isn't in the first one, but I think Penta is in the DLC pack that is coming out either next month or in July. I don't remember which month it is, but I know it's definitely June or July that we're getting Penta in the game. I think it's July. I think I'll be wrong on that. Um, but at least we don't have to wait too long for the names like Julia, Stephanie Vacher, and also Motor City Machine Guns. I mean, that was one of the things I was glad about with like DLC for 2K24 is at least we did get CM Punk in the first DLC pack. At least we weren't having to wait too long before we had him in the game. I mean, obviously we had to wait, for quite a while. We had to wait up until September before we got names like Hyrie Sane, Nia Jax, and obviously Dragon Lee in the game. They weren't introduced until September, but at least we had gotten CM Punk in the first DLC pack. Like that was the main thing. Um, I'm glad they haven't complete. They haven't. Well, I mean, I'd say they haven't done what they did with the Pat McAfee show. Pat, we have got celebrities in the game. We've got NBA stars. I don't know why we need NBA. I still don't understand why we need NBA stars in the 2K wrestling game. But there you go. You know, that's 2K for you. They do crazy things sometimes. They give fans things that they never asked for. I know some people saying they think that Joe Hendry is going to be in the WrestleMania DLC. I don't know. Although I feel like the big three. I mean, there's two. It's really confusing with him because I'd say, well, they haven't got him in the game because he's probably not under contract obviously with WWE right now. He's still on contract with Impact Wrestling TNA. But there were those there were those in one of the teaser images that we got for the game. There were fans wearing shirts that had Joe Hendry's name on them. So, you know, why would they tease a wrestler that wasn't going to be in the game? Like, that doesn't make sense. There were fans in the game wearing shirts that had Hendry on them. So why did they have that sort of teaser when Joe Hendry wasn't even gonna be in the game? I mean, I would be very surprised if Joe Hendry does make it into the game. I'm really not expecting him. I don't know how many people are expecting that, but I'm definitely not expecting that at all. You know, for me, if somebody was to ask if 2A25 is actually worth picking up, I would definitely say yes, it is worth picking up this year. I'm aware that we're still kind of maybe. I mean, is it? I mean, can I really say that we're still in the honeymoon period for 2K25? I feel like we're not really in the honeymoon period anymore. Hopefully things won't go down, won't turn sour for 2K25, just like things did with 2K24. It started off really well. However, by September, October time, things were really bad for the game. People were fuming over the McAfee DLC pack, to releasing new patches for the game, and every time they released a new patch for the game, something else would go wrong. There was some sort of new issue that appeared in the game after the new patch came out. that was a common theme, and it was just like I'd say by September, October, like 2K24 was near enough unplayable. Like it was really bad, and it was sad because the game had started off. Vince had started off so well for the game, and it started off quite strong, and then it just went down south very quickly. Hopefully that doesn't happen for 2K25. I'm definitely very happy with how things are at the moment. There's not too many. For me, I feel like there's not too many major problems with the game right now. The game is in a good position. There's not too many problems with it. Hopefully things stay that way. Hopefully things continue to go well. But yeah, I thought I would give my thoughts on that this morning. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll see you for another one soon. Bye bye.